Greetings, beloveds. Let's have a brief discussion on why you should let momentum breakouts guide you. Now, let's take a look at an example of a stock here in late 2022 and early 2023. Now, believe it or not, at this area here, I was sending out breakout alerts for my clients. Now, of course, that did not work. Now, in theory, if you don't play breakout, it makes no sense to be buying in that area when the stock had come from $4 was now trading at 26. Why not buy it at $4 or $5? But well, remember, we are momentum traders. We are not too concerned about this period here because we don't know that whether it's gonna have the momentum to continue moving higher. Now, you can argue as a side note that there was a breakout here that we missed, and that is true. So there was 1 month of rest and a breakout. So let's even say, even from a breakout perspective, this was a breakout entry there. And if you go back to the prior highs, there was another breakout here. So yes, breakouts are still going to be the best way to capture momentum. Now, my point here is one of the beauties of breakouts is once this area failed to yield results, in other words, once that turned into a failed breakout, we were not interested in the stock. And so in theory, you get stopped out. And for the next almost, let's call it 1.5 years, you are not interested in the stock. So the beauty is you don't get involved in all of this multi-year downwards to sideways action. That's the beauty of breakouts. Breakouts allow you to own stocks when they're primed to move. Now you can see here on my paid website, VRNA is a stock, and I had mentioned it in late 2022, early 2023. The next time I mentioned the breakout is almost 20 months later on September 11th of 2024. So let's take a look at the charts. And so the next time I had a breakout alert is right here, September 11th of 2024, when the stock finally cleared the previous monthly high. So we didn't give up on the stock. I tracked it for the following 20 plus months, almost a year and a half. And so our entry is here. Now I'll show you that yes, in theory, again, you could have said, why not buy it here, sell it there? But since we are looking for momentum, we are not interested in this phase. This phase we just let be and let whoever plays the rebound game to benefit from this recovery move. So if you benefit from this recovery move, oh well. But from a breakout perspective, our interest is coming later on. Now, this is the monthly chart. And if you take a look at the monthly chart in that time frame, the RSI was moving to 3-year highs. As you can see, RSI is moving just about to move to 69.1. In fact, it was at 69.13. And we can see that the MACDs are not perfect. But after years of trading this method, I know when the MACDs eventually catch up because of a price advance. So that was not an issue for me at the time. In fact, if we take a look, this is the monthly. Take a look at the weekly now to show you why the timing for this entry was. So this is the weekly chart. I'm going to zoom in to a 1-year weekly so we can see the breakout after a couple weeks of rest. So this is 1-year weekly, and I can now share with you why I sent that breakout alert, because I was using the weekly chart for timing purposes. So we've had a couple weeks of rest, and the rest period I'm talking about is in this period here. So we had a couple weeks of rest, and once I saw this breakout here, I knew it was time to re-enter the stock. And that's why I sent out that breakout alert. Remember, this is almost 20 months later. And in that time period, we avoided all of this. So that's one of the beauties of momentum. You avoid all these unknown periods of downward to sideways disaster. So yes, it might seem like a late entry, but from experience, it really wasn't a late entry. And I did like that the MACD was holding above 69.1 throughout this sideways action for the most part. Just a little bit of a dip below 69.1 here. But for the most part, during that sideways construction, the new base, the RSI was above 69.1 on the weekly. So I thought there was momentum and a chance for this thing to explode to the upside. This is September of 2024. Now, if we fast forward to the current chart, you can see that the stock has actually performed very well. If you take the breakout that we were discussing here, coming as the stock cleared this area, our entry was somewhere there on the weekly. Actually, it's right there. So our entry was in September. That was at a price of about 30. Stock would go on to trade as high as 70, in a couple of months. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 months. So 100% return plus in about 6 months, not bad. And remember, I was talking about the MACDs would fix themselves. Take a look at your RSI and MACD now. Since just understanding that they'll catch up and move to 3-year highs on the MACDs there, RSI was well above 69.1. And in fact, even in the current market, if the stock was to break out above this recent monthly closing high, would you consider it a buy? Well, I would. That's it for now. I am Eric with Mother.com. I leave you as I found you, in the love light of the one infinite creator. Go forth rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one creator. Adonai.